Hello, everybody, and welcome to the TeacherCast Educational Network. My name is Jeff Bradbury.
And I'm Nick Amaral.
And welcome to Ask the Tech Coach, the podcast for instructional technology coaches. If you are currently in a coaching position or are looking to become a coach, this is the podcast for you. Nick, how are you doing today?
Doing good, Jeff. Just wrapping up some projects that we have and moving on to some future-ready work that I've kind of been swamped and encompassed in for the past couple weeks now.
Oh, it is so good to hear that you guys are getting ready for all the future-ready stuff. There are so many tech coaches around the country, really, that are getting themselves and getting their school districts into future-ready. Nick, give us a little bit of a background here. What exactly do you need to do to become future-ready?
So, there's sort of like an application process, I guess, of compiled paperwork and exemplars and artifacts that you need to put together. And the idea is to show whether you are hitting these things on a curriculum strand, a PD, tech coaching, personnel strand, and also a strand that's as far as technology and networking and all that, and whether your district is doing the things in order to support student learning at a higher degree.
You know, the Future Ready movement started a few years ago, and even recently at the FETC conference, when you're looking at the program, there's a lot of sessions that have that Future Ready logo. And really all it is, it's about creating something and building a brand that people know about and a brand that people can trust. And that's what we're going to be talking today about on Ask the Tech Coach podcast, how to build your brand. Now, there's, of course, a lot of things involved in building your brand, and we can't hit them all in this show. So today we're going to be talking about just the first three things, and we're going to call today's episode Part 1. Next week, we're going to be dealing with Part 2, but today we're going to be talking about three unique things that a tech coach needs when building their brand. Now, you might be out there going, hey, I'm interested in doing this. What do I need to do? And I'm going to answer that question very, very easily. Number one, check us out on Twitter. You can, of course, follow us on Twitter at AskTheTechCoach. Leave us a voice message with all of your questions on this subject. We would love to answer them in our follow-up episode. You can, of course, email us at feedback@teachercast.net. And you know what? If you'd like to be a part of this and all of our shows, you can leave us a voicemail with your questions and comments over at teachercast.net/voicemail. Guys, we want to say thank you for subscribing to us. We are available wherever podcasts are. And, of course, all of our archives can be found over on AskTheTechCoach.com. We have some great stuff going on. And you know what, Nick? Last week we put out a fantastic episode on a subject that kind of new to this show here. We talked a little bit about how to do professional development in a Microsoft world, mostly about how to do Teams and how to do OneNote. And Nick, I know you weren't available for that show, but we got an awful lot of questions. Nick, why don't you tell us a little bit about one of the questions that we got from our show last week?
So, Jeff, one of the questions that came in was, what happens if your district uses both things such as Google versus Microsoft? Is there one that you should go with?
And that's an important question, and I'm glad that somebody spoke up with that question, because there are so many districts that are, they're Google schools, but they still have O365 accounts, or they're officially a Microsoft school, but they've also got Google Apps for Education. It's not an easy question to answer, right? Like, if your school district is leaning a specific way, like let's say that your district is a Google school district, but they still have access to all the O365 tools. It's like, what do you do as a tech coach, right? Do you push Google Slides? Do you push PowerPoint? Do you push Google Sites, or do you push Microsoft Sway? Which one do you do? I gotta be honest here. I don't have a complete answer other than just make sure whatever you're pushing is the right answer for those who you work for, right? I would always defer to your administration and say, look, what happens if somebody wants to do a project and Sway is the best answer for that? Am I allowed to push that, or do I need to go and make a Google slide presentation? What would you, really, Nick, it all comes down to communication.
And that's a great point, Jeff. I'm in a district, just putting it out there that we are like this. We use, we have Microsoft access to the suite. We have access to Google. We have access to Apple. So, or should they be using Pages? Should they be using Google Docs? And I always say that same answer. I say, look, it depends on what you want to do and what you want to get out of it. If you're doing collaborating, great, use a Google Doc. But in essence, I think if you want to use a Word doc is still a Word doc. And if it's not going to change anything too different from what they want to do, I kind of leave it up to the user on what they feel comfortable and what they're going to do with that document when they're done.
I think every school district should come up with a plan that says we
Uh,
use this, right? And it's because it's confusing, right? Especially when you have a lot of teachers that you're trying to train, a lot of office staff, and you're trying to put together some kind of an internal thing. And I don't want to go too far down this rabbit hole, but I mean, really, every district should say, look, we are Google Drive. Or we are OneDrive, or we are something else for our online storage. You really can't run an efficient operation when you've got multiple online systems and sharing. And so that's a different story. Like, we use docs, we use slides, we use whatever. You really should have one standard rule of things. But look, if somebody wants to make a PowerPoint, fantastic. If somebody wants to make a sway, fantastic. If somebody wants to use Google Drawings, it does end up getting messy though after a while, doesn't it? Especially if somebody says, "Oh, but wait, I want to use Keynote," and everyone's else is
right.
using.
Yep.
There's not a really good answer for this other than, you shouldn't shy away from all this technology because essentially you're teaching the students how to be a well-rounded content creator.
Absolutely. And I think you're right. I think it just comes down to, in the end, to make it easier on everyone, if we can designate one platform, where everyone knows that they're going to go to get their docs or what tools they're going to use. But in essence, exactly, we don't know what they're going to use when they get out of high school, at the college level, at the business level. So again, to just at least be adaptable and be able to say, hey, I've tried them all. That's great. So
It,
Jeff, I'm talking about personal brand. How do we, what is it? What do we do? How do we start moving in and talking about building our tech coach brand?
And you know what? This is such an important topic out there. We've been getting a lot of emails about it recently. We talk about it a lot on our Voxer groups. We've been talking about it on our Mastermind. We'll talk a little bit more about our Mastermind later here, but really, it all comes down to branding, right? And so today we're going to talk about things that we can do. Three things specifically that we can do as tech coaches, maybe to get our names out there, maybe to get seen, maybe to get our next job, maybe to become a presenter, maybe to become a featured speaker. Today, we're going to be really nerding out about a couple things here. So we are looking for comments. We're looking for your thoughts. If this topic isn't for you, I totally get it. If there's somebody who's maybe not a tech coach that might be interested in learning about this stuff, please do us a favor and share this podcast with others. We're going to be accompanying this over the next few weeks with various blog posts on each of these different topics as we have a chance to pop things out. But really, it is about creating a brand. It's about being memorable. It's about having somebody say things like, have you seen that ditch that textbook guy? And you go, oh my goodness, have you met Matt Miller? He's so wonderful. And so, really, it comes down to what are you doing to be memorable? And Nick, that just takes us into our tech coach tip of the week.
So our tech coach tip of the week is, the idea of building a brand and how that is more than just a business card and a logo. So it's all about how you present yourself to others online and in person. And you want to be able to build the brand that you want and not the brand that others are going to perceive themselves.
It's about being memorable. It's about being that again. It's hard to explain brand without really saying the word brand, right? But it's about being recognized, right? And so today we're going to be talking about three different things here. We're going to be talking about, tech coach websites, not the way that we did before, not the here's my resource website, but really what do people see about you when they go onto your website? We're going to be talking about websites. We're going to be talking a little bit about social media today and what tech coaches can do on social media, where they can go, how they can create things. And then we're going to wrap up, Nick, today with a topic that is, I think it's under thought about, which is our presentation slide decks. The things that really make us stand out and make us look a little bit more professional, maybe when we're at conferences. So we're going to be talking about those three topics today. But Nick, first, let's kind of go around and talk about what makes up a brand. Now, Nick, do you have an idea of what the word brand means? Let me just ask that simple question here.
So obviously, when I think of the word brand, Jeff, I start thinking of companies, right? I think the logos start to come to mind, and when I start to think about them, I think about what is the essence of that company. One that I think about, just I remember commercials, Volvo, right? Like you see the commercial, You connect Volvo to safety and security and family as part of that brand around Volvo. So I think that in essence starts to signify and define what brand is. For tech coaches, it's you, it's your persona, it's
It's
I
what you're
think
known for.
what you're known for, your attitude, the things you've done, and people know what to come to expect about you.
When we're looking at identity, right? When we're looking at parts of your brand, it really comes down to like five or six things here, right? Identity. Who are you? Who are you really, right? Like, are you hiding behind some kind of a tech coach mask, or are you really just showing yourself off and being authentic with people? Um, a lot of times when we think of a brand, we think of a logo, we think of a symbol, right? We can all think of you drive down the road and there's your favorite store or restaurant, or, what is that symbol that people think about? If you've heard my show, you've heard the story, right? July 11th, 2011, I woke up and I had this vision for an apple with the TC in the middle. And next thing you know, the first Teacher Cast logo was born. And that's become my symbol, my brand. That's what you see when you look at the podcast and the website. And even though the logo has changed a little bit over the last 7.5 to 8 years, that is my symbol. And, we can look all around. Again, I'll bring up my good friend Matt Miller, who does Ditch That Textbook. When you see that crumpled up yellow, when you see that trash can, when you see that kind of that image, you think Ditch That Textbook. You think Matt Miller, and you go, hey, that is an awesome, awesome guy. And there's a lot of, tech coaches or techie people out there that have fantastic brands. If you think of Flipgrid, if you think of Breakout EDU, these are nice brands that have great images and have nice looking logos. Nick, when it comes to the ed tech world, what logos kind of stand out for you?
Obviously the big ones. We think Google has built an empire and a brand, and Apple, right? Just seeing their Apple logo, and but anything to Schoology, just doing work with Schoology, or any of some of the the LMSs. I think just seeing the logos stick out to me. But when you know the logo and you've played around with that tool, or you've come in contact with those people, you kind of know what they're all about. Jeff, a little bit to put you on a spot. Obviously, you've built the brand around TeacherCast. My question to you is: this something that someone who's new to tech coaching should start to do right away, or should they establish themselves as a tech coach first, and then the idea of building that brand? Like, when I say that, I mean, should they start establishing maybe the logo and the symbol and the website presence beforehand, or do it once they've kind of become more established?
I think these are they're not even two different questions that you're asking. I think it's multiple questions. If you want to be a tech coach, you don't need to worry about much of all that we're going to be talking about here, right? It's different. If you want to be a speaker, if you want to get a book deal, if you want to start a podcast, if you want to put yourself in a realm, I'm trying to use the right words here. If you want to put yourself in a realm where people are noticing you, where you are going to be known as this person who does this, then the answer really is, yeah, you should be thinking about all of this stuff. It took me a while because TeacherCast started off as just, I want to make a podcast with my friends, and then slowly over time you kind of turn around and say, oh, I guess I'm building something here that you'd never really realized it. So I want to just kind of make this, look, if you are right now a wonderful teacher and somebody says, would you like to be our tech coach? None of this matters, right? Like, you don't need to be worrying about all of this stuff. But if you are interested in getting into the speaking circuit, or maybe you want to go find a position elsewhere and you want to have a little bit of a presence behind you, maybe to help your resume stand up, or, find some things on social media, these are kind of important topics.
And that's good to know, Jeff, because I think we get that question quite often about, us as Ask the Tech Coach and you as TeacherCast about, what should they do to establish themselves as a tech coach. And it's great, again, to kind of reiterate the fact that if you're just want to get into a tech coach, this isn't something you have to have established now. But again, if you kind of want to take yourself maybe a little bit to the next level, looking at a different position, whatever it is, then these may be things that can help establish you there. So, Jeff, if we're thinking about building this brand, then obviously something we've been working on with me has been my Tech Coach website. Talk to me a little bit about building websites. Obviously, you're the guy to go to. You do a lot of work with that. You've now established a new domain name, right, around websites. Talk to me about building a Tech Coach website.
Yeah, over the last couple of years, we've had a lot of teachers come to us and say, hey, TeacherCast looks nice. Could you help me with that? Or could you help me take my own website to that next level? And so I'm excited that we are actually in the middle of putting this kind of a site or a landing page together. But the domain name is Educational Web Design. And you can go there right now. All that you can see, and by the way, we are recording this at the beginning of March 2019. So maybe by the time you listen to this, the site will be live. But we're putting together a little landing page to help teachers, where if you want to learn how to make your website look better, we are here to help you. If you'd like us to help you with your website and do some of the work for you, we're putting together a team of web designers who have actually done some of your favorite websites. Realized recently that there's just a group of 4 or 5 of us that have really been working behind the scenes on some of the, let's call it, the more popular speakers out there. A lot of those speakers come to only a few people to do their websites. So I'm wrangling up some of these web designers and saying, hey, let's help out everybody in the education world here. So if you go over to educationalwebdesign.com, you can fill out our Google form and ask some questions. Or in a few weeks, we're actually going to be launching a full-blown site to show you guys what's possible. And, if you guys want some help, we're here to help you out. Now, there's a few things that we're looking at when when you want to make a website. Number one, we're looking at fonts, we're looking at logos, we're looking at colors, we're looking at the visuals. But really, Nick, and this is something I want to bring up to you, the question is, what do you call your website? What is that domain that you purchase to get your website? And Nick, I want to hear you give the right answer. What is the right way to look at your domain? Because there's a few different things that are out there I'm seeing people do. But what is the right answer for what domain should I find?
Yeah, so I think the right answer is your name. And I think it's what you think people are going to be able to Google. And they're not going to Google something totally creative and outside the box. They're going to look for you. And so by Googling your name and making your domain your name, in essence, you're going to be able to build that brand a little bit easier.
I couldn't have said that better to you many times, Nick.
Right? See, I learned it as a pro.
And for that reason, like what did we do last month or a few months ago? We helped Nick purchase a domain name. Nick, what is your domain name?
So my domain name is nicholasamaral.com.
What was your domain name?
edtechforay.wordpress.com.
Now you see the difference out there, right? Because look, I'm gonna pick on Nick for a second here,
Sure.
and we're having fun with this, but as I said to Nick many times, nobody Google searches EdTech Foray.
Right.
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 At this point, right now, look, if Nick was 15 years into this and he was an author and he had a podcast and he had all these wonderful things, I might have given him a different answer. Right. And this was my mistake. A lot of times I talk about the things that I've done as a mistake, right? Like I built up TeacherCast, but I never built up Jeff. And some might say that was great, and some might say that was a mistake. But if you're starting off and you're looking for a domain name for your website, always, always, always get yourname.com. Or as close to it as, even if you have to put like a middle initial out there, always have something in there. So domain is always good. We always say the words TLD, or top level domain. It should always be your site. Now the question, of course, is, well, what happens if I have a really funky Twitter account? Can I buy that domain? And the answer is, yeah, you could do that. But my suggestion for you guys always is put your name as the main URL and then get your Twitter account and forward it over. Google just works better if your name is there. Because again, everyone's going to be searching for Nicholas Amaral. They might not know what an EdTech Foray is. So,
Yes, right.
So keep your name in mind. That is the number one currency that you guys have. Now, the next thing on here is finding, what platform to use and what the right host is and all those different things. And I'm going to do this really, really quickly, right? Everyone says, well, what platform should I use for my main professional website? Should I use a Google site? Should I use WordPress, Wix, Weebly? I don't know, all these different things, right? The answer that I always give is this: get your domain for each of those platforms. Try all of them out and then come up with the best one or two, right? So when I started off with TeacherCast, I got a Blogger account, I got a WordPress account, I got a Wix account, I got all these different, and I just tried them out and figured out, okay, while I was building TeacherCast in my mind, what platform worked the best? And I got to tell you, I chose the wrong one. I chose a platform called Sandvox, Sandvox. They're still around, great application. But Sandvox took TeacherCast from 0 to about 6 or 8 months or so. And then I found, ta-da, WordPress. And since then, I've been a WordPress guy ever since. Now, which is the best for you? Depends. We want to talk about a few things really quickly here. Like, do you want to make a website for yourself or do you want to make a blog? Right, Nick? You've heard of those two terms.
Absolutely. And I always think about that, like what is sort of the goal of your site? And I know I struggled with that, Jeff, at the beginning. I find myself, English teacher me, writing more and more about just kind of putting a little bit of a story element to what it is. So blog just seemed to fit my needs. I wasn't kind of building a full blown website in my head of just resources. So hopefully I went about that the right way. But again, I struggle with that idea of should it be a blog? Should it be a website? Are they the same thing? In essence, of a person typing in the web address and going to it, does it have something to do with layout? So I'll toss that right back out at you. How should they then decide whether it's going to be a blog or a full website?
So let's just take a moment and talk about the definitions of the two, right? A website is static content, meaning content that doesn't change, right? Usually it's things like your about me, your bio, your maybe you have a media page, maybe you have a page with your presentation, things that don't change, right? A blog is a diary. It's a journal. It's a reverse chronological order. It's got posts and stuff like that. That's the quick and dirty answer of all those different things. Many websites are just that. They're websites. Many things are blogs. You could have a blog that has some web pages to it. You can also make a website that has a blog to it. Generally, I say things like Google Sites, Wix, Weebly, those are website creators, whereas WordPress is a blog, but a blog that can have pages. Just like Wix and Weebly is a
Right.
website generator that can have a blog rule to it. Now, there's a lot of other topics in there, and if you're looking to deep dive into any of these topics, Nick, I recommend anybody heading over to edupodcasting.com. That's edupodcasting.com. We've got some great links on how to make a website, how to deal with things, and we're going to be talking all about that stuff over on our educational web design and EDU podcasting channel. So check out that stuff over on TeacherCast. We have a lot of information for you. Once you have your website, it really just comes down to what people want to see and where you want to find it, right? We can talk a lot about what is on your main homepage. So, for instance, for the longest time, TeacherCast was just a blog roll. And last year, when we did our redesign, I made it into a static website that's got blog content on there. So, you go to the website and it's got a big image that says, sign up for my this, sign up for my that. And then what's the next thing we're looking for? We're looking for sidebar widgets, right? And sidebar widgets are those really cool things that you can move around and you can put calendars and you can put images and you can show people where you're presenting and what great things you're doing and click here. There's a lot of neat things that you can put on your website. And, Nick, it really just comes down to what do you want? Now, Nick, I know your website's going to be going through some changes. What can we see from your website over the next few weeks?
Yeah, so I'm trying to, obviously my main page is, and the main focus is going to be the blog, which is going to be more about, just education in general. It's not going to be anything too specific. It's going to be more about ideas and things I'm tossing up and wanting to try inside PD and outside the classroom and things like that. But I think what we're going to find now is maybe some, like you said, some static pages within that maybe house materials or lesson plans or whatever of just some things that I've done. I always get people that reach out and, hey Nick, I saw you post about a lesson or a unit you did with the road, merging the road with the Walking Dead. That was something I always got teachers and people reaching out to me about. So sharing just some of these resources and finding, how my blog can now hold and house some of these things that might help people out.
Friends, before we move on with our show, I wanted to let you guys know I have been in education now for almost 20 years, and I've seen the changes some students have come to face every single day. Whether it's going through school hungry, not being able to see a doctor when they're sick, or not getting the proper rest at night, these challenges make it hard for kids to focus on their learning. I remember a story of a student who came to my office one day and she could barely stay awake due to all the circumstances happening around her at home that were beyond her control. I didn't know what I could do, and I wanted to be able to help her out in any way that I could. Thankfully, Concordia University in Portland is leading the way with their 3 to PhD program that helps to combat students' fears, freeing them to pursue their highest dreams. They're revolutionizing education by creating a holistic model that provides groceries, healthcare, and even clothing to students right here on campus, helping them thrive and helping our communities strengthen and grow. Concordia's College of Education offers online and on-campus programs where students have the opportunity to learn about a more compassionate approach to education and see how nurturing the whole student can lead to amazing things. To learn more about how you can help students conquer their monsters and achieve their highest dreams, visit cu-portland.edu/let's conquer. That's cu-portland.edu/let's conquer. And use the hashtag #NatureEducateGrow. So, Nick, we're back, and we just got done talking all about our websites and how our website is really that first, it really is that first visual that people find about you. And I want to take some time now to talk a little bit about social media, right? And when we come to building our brand, social media is extremely important. Everybody says, find me on Twitter. And then what do? We go to your Twitter account, your Facebook account, your YouTube account, all those different things. And really, when we're coming up with a brand, we're looking for consistency between all of these things. And again, I'm not one to toot my horn on this because I'm not even following my advice. My Twitter accounts are professional. My Instagram account is personal. And that's totally okay. My YouTube channel is mostly business, but it's kind of got a few extra things in there for some subscribers. But let's talk a little bit about, maybe some best practices for your Twitter account, Facebook, and stuff like that. Nick, do you have any suggestions for how to make your Twitter account maybe stand out a little bit?
So, one of the things, obviously, I use Twitter and Facebook. I'm not that big as far as Instagram and Pinterest go. But I do find that, I love to just showcase things that I'm doing or that, I've been working on in my district. I love to highlight things that teachers are doing within my district and pushing out the great work or lessons and activities they're doing with their students. My stuff is all professional. I don't really have I'll call them a personal Twitter or personal Facebook. I also don't brand anything only specifically to my district. I think, I treat my Twitter and my Facebook as a professional me who would take on the role of really kind of in essence whatever district I was working for, but it's still me and I'm just highlighting the great work. I think what we're starting to see, and I don't know, Jeff, I just see this going around all the time. I'm not quite sure how to describe what I guess my feelings are is people are putting obviously in their Twitters, these are my own personal views or, this is a personal me on my post. And I'm not quite sure if that really protects you from anything really, but I just know that, some people put it out there as just a hope that maybe people are not seeing it as it takes an onus of their district. But I love seeing what people are doing in their districts, and I get a lot from that. So I think if you're highlighting what your teachers are doing, especially as a tech coach, and you're just pushing out the work that you're doing at PD and coaching, that goes a long way and speaks volumes to other tech coaches and to teachers just to be able to grab these resources and run with it.
I totally agree, right? Especially if you're trying to get your name out there as a tech coach. Um, having an identity, having something that's
Mhm.
interesting, having something that is able to be, I'm gonna. This might be a little, confrontational here. I don't know if that's the right word, but able to be read.
Mhm.
We've all seen the Twitter accounts. We've all seen the domains that when you're looking at it, there's like numbers in the middle and there's a whole bunch of other weird things, right? You gotta create some kind of a brand and some kind of an identity that people could, number one, search for. Number two, can speak, right? Like,
Mhm.
and again, I'm gonna pick on you for a second. I don't know what an ed tech 4A is,
Sure. Right.
and so if I don't know what that is, that's hard to understand, right? Um, so always come up with some kind of, your Twitter account could be your name. It could be a funky thing. Like, again, we're Ask the Tech Coach, or we're at Podcasting Today. It's some kind of a branded thing. But the idea is we want to make our Twitter, our Facebook, our Instagram, and our YouTube. We all want them to look the same thing, right? And I'll tell you, my secret weapon in all of this is Canva. Canva is a
Yeah.
fantastic application. It makes a lot of great graphics. And the neat thing about it is it's got all of the templates that are updated constantly for all the social media channels. And basically, with Canva, you can actually create this is, I'm not paid from Canva, by the way. With Canva, you can actually create a brand identity where it gives you your fonts, your colors, or all, you can come up with, customize everything there. But then you can create a Twitter background, and by the push of a button, it automatically turns around and makes the YouTube background. Awesome. Really, really neat and really, really easy. All of the graphics that we do on TeacherCast, they're Canva made. So I love using Canva, and really you're looking at, again, the visuals that go on your website, that go on your social graphics. Canva is great because not only is it good for your desktop, but it's also good for, Macs, with PCs, Chromebooks, your phone,
Absolutely.
iPads are great. A lot of
Yep.
neat things that you could do with Canva. You're a Canva fan too, or do you have another graphic app of choice?
No, definitely. I go to Canva for pretty much everything, and Jeff, like you said, even on your phone, I have the app. It's so easy to use on the phone, and I've created things, or made edits to things when I've been out, and someone said, I do a lot with an edu snack with a colleague of mine from a local school district down by my house. Um, and sometimes I just have to make updates, or we say, hey, when's our next meetup? And I'll just jump on my phone, I make that edit, I push it out in Twitter. So my banner on my blog was created through Canva, and work I've done for school sites and stuff, modified and edited through Canva. My tech tip posts for my weekly tech tips, obviously created. So I love it. And like you said, I've come up with a color scheme. I've kind of have a little bit of a brand and template that I go to and push them out from there.
One of the things that I always, suggest to people is when you're doing things like YouTube videos or other types of video content, make professional looking bumpers. We call it bumpers. You might call it a graphic or a header image or something like that. But the bumper is important. A lot of times you see people put stuff up on YouTube and then they let YouTube choose the thumbnail. And then what ends up happening? YouTube chooses a pose that, your hands in the air and your face is kind of snarly, and it doesn't look good, right? All it takes is you go into Canva, you make an image, and I don't know, maybe we'll come up with some kind of some kind of a template for everybody out there. But
There we
really,
go.
you're looking. There you go. There you're looking for 1280 by 720. That's your bumper graphic for your YouTube channel. So check out Ask the Tech Coach soon. We're going to be giving out bumper graphics for all these different things. Um, but seriously, with all of that, it's just it comes down to a matter of keep yourself looking professional. Again, have that
Absolutely.
brand, have it on your website, have it on your Facebook, your Twitter. I didn't say this yet, but I'm one of those guys that believes that if you're making a logo, you need two. You need two logos if you're going to be creating a brand for yourself. Do you know why, Nick?
No, Jeff, why is that?
Well, usually on the top of our website, our logo comes in some kind of a rectangle form, right? But on our social medias, it's some kind of a square. Now, if you look at anything that's out there, right? If you let's just take the big three, right? McDonald's, Wendy's, and Burger King. They all have rectangular logos, but then they also have nice squares that look similar but different. And same thing with Apple, right? Same thing with Microsoft, right? Like Microsoft has the square and then it has the words Microsoft branded on it. Or if you look at their Twitter, it's just the square without the word Microsoft because you know what that logo is. So I highly recommend when you're creating things, have two logos. And TeacherCast has two logos. One's a rectangle and one is the just the apple itself. And sometimes underneath the apple, I put the word TeacherCast depending on social media and stuff like that. So always have multiple, you know,
Good
points
tip. Yep.
of interest on all of that stuff. So we're going to take another quick break here, Nick. But when we come back, we're going to talk about the all important topic of presentation slides and how you can make a splash at your next presentation. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for checking out today's program. I wanted to take a moment today to talk to you about my friends at Student Treasures. You see, Student Treasures has been turning students into published authors for more than 20 years. They've been providing everything that you need to turn your class into published authors, and they do it for free. Student Treasures' free publishing kit makes it easy, and this hands-on writing activity motivates your students to write and inspires them to learn by turning their writing and illustrations into a one-of-a-kind book. Creating a class book promotes student collaboration, builds self-esteem, and is an easy way to incorporate all of the educational standards. So you see, when you turn your students into published authors, you'll automatically receive a free teacher's copy of your class's book along with any copies ordered by their parents. Nothing will motivate your students more than seeing their work come to life in a real book. But don't take our word for it. More than 440,000 teachers have turned over 14 million students into published authors with Student Treasures. You don't want to miss the looks on their faces when they see their works come to life in a professionally bound book. They'll love looking back on this treasured keepsake for years to come. Learn more about publishing and turn your class into proud authors at studenttreasures.com/teachercast. And we're back here. And Nick, we're talking a little bit today about how to create a brand. And people ask, is a brand created overnight? And the other question I get often is, do you create the brand or is the brand created for you? And those are interesting questions. What do you think, Nick? Is a brand something that can be created for you?
You know, I don't think so. I think you're the one that is creating the brand. And that's why I think I mean, me personally, I think that you want to build that brand yourself and you don't want people to be able to interpret the brand in different ways. So what you put out there in essence is going to then become part of that. And I think of this even in essence of for students in digital citizenship and building their learning about their digital footprint. Everything they've done and created in school is in essence becomes part of their brand and what they're going to sell to go to college or that job later on. So no, you want to be in charge of that brand and not let things kind of dictate and build it later on their own.
I agree with some of that. I agree with the idea that you want to be in control of your brand. But I gotta tell you, I kind of believe that a brand can be created for you, right? For instance, and again, if we're gonna define brand as something that is an identity for yourself, let's say that Nick, let's say you work in a building that has two floors, right? And every Monday you walk into that building and you do the first floor, and then you leave. And then the next week comes back and you do the first floor, and maybe you hit some of the second floor. Well, the brand you're creating for yourself is he doesn't care about the second floor. That's the identity that you're getting in your district. Let's give another scenario. Let's say that without even thinking about it, Nick opens up his blog and he's only writing posts about learning management systems. He's not out to be a learning management system person. He's just he's excited about Schoology and he wants to try everything and he wants to show off all those things, right? Maybe he writes some Google, maybe he writes some Apple, but 80% of what he's doing is learning management systems. Well, next thing you know, somebody says, I want to do a conference on learning management systems, and some total random person goes, I know who to call. Let's go call Nick about that. He's the learning management system person. So, in essence, you're not out to create a brand called I'm Learning Management System Boy. You are actually just creating all this content, and the world has kind of branded you as the learning management system experts. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I think where struggle with that is that in essence just a part of your brand, or is it
Mm-hmm.
really you becoming, right? Like I almost think, like, I agree with you in the sense that there is something else dictating it that's sort of building that brand alone, but I'm not sure that that just becomes your brand more than it's just another part or extension of your brand in general. And maybe that's the easy answer. I
It,
don't I
it
don't know,
it's an
right, Jeff?
interesting question. I'm
Right.
thinking of Shaquille O'Neal, right? When he was
Right.
in the NBA, what was he known for? What was his reputation? What was his brand? I'll give you a
Right.
hint. He couldn't hit a
Free
free
throw.
throw, right?
Right.
You wanted to hack a Shaq because he couldn't hit the free throw. And, so again, the brand was created. He didn't go out and try to be the guy that didn't make a free throw. He worked really hard at it. He just couldn't really do it that well. So I'm,
Right.
I'm saying this to you because whatever you guys are looking at doing, sometimes it's created for you and sometimes you're created, but you always are in charge of nurturing things. And that's why it's important for us today to end with this first part of our branding shows by talking about our presentation slide decks. Now, Nick, you have a very particular style, as do I, of creating slide decks. And let me see if I can describe your slide decks here because I
Sure.
really think the world of them, and I want you to know that. They're fun. They show your personality, and I know every now and then I'm going to get some kind of an animated graphic that's going to kind of go, that's kind of neat, that's kind of clever. Am I right about your slide decks?
Yeah, and I think you've nailed it though. I think, at least for me, a big part of my presentations is I want you to get my personality. I want my personality and my
Your your
uh
your foray.
my fray, yeah, my energy. I want all that to kind of come off in my presentations. And I feed off of my presentations, like when I'm putting them together and I'm coming up with these funny, or looking for these funny animated, images and gifs and whatnot. And like you said, they do pop up every once in a while. When I see that, it's a talking point for me, and I use that to engage the audience during that workshop or that presentation. So yeah, and I hope that people understand that. Hey, when I'm looking at this presentation, I hope that they can sense me speaking to them, and the way I write in my blog and the way I write even in my presentation slides, I hope is in essence sounds like they're listening to me.
And we do the same thing here on our teacher cast slides. A year or so ago, and I redesigned the website, I was also redesigning my Google slide deck. Everything has the right fonts, everything has the right colors, everything has the right style. Everything is branded. I even created a slide deck just called the Teacher Cast slide deck template or whatever it is. And on the back of my slides, and I'd be happy to show anybody if they're interested, but on like my last slide has every one of my logos that I use. And when I say logos, I mean I've got logos for doc sheet slides, Keynote, Word, PowerPoints, anything that I might need to pull while I'm creating a slide deck. I put everything back there, right? So I also have the Google Educator badges and the Microsoft badge, anything that I need to pull from. So that way, when I'm building my slide deck, I simply copy that Google slide file,
Hmm.
and then I just have fun with it, and I don't have to worry about searching for the apple or the orange or the pear or the pear anything like that, right?
Hmm.
So a little bit of tips when it comes to these different things because we want people to come to our presentations and know that we're we're serious about doing this. We want to have fun, but really it just comes down to, are you on brand? When I look at your slide deck and I look at your website, is this the same thing? Are these two different people, right? Are the logos the same? Another thing that's important, and we don't see this a lot, and I would love to see it more, or I'd love to help you guys create more of this, is just the idea of what happens before the session starts and what happens after the session starts. A lot of times you go to a session and people just say, see ya.
Hmm.
Sometimes you go to a session and people say, hey, look, give me your email address. I'll send you something fun, right? Like, what is that one thing that as people are leaving, they kind of take a little bit of you away with them, and that way they remember you, maybe for another conference, maybe for an interview, maybe for listening to a podcast. What is that one or thing that you want people to remember or take away from your suggestions? And Nick, you've had some good experiences. I've had too, of after the conference, people have come up and say, hey, could you do this for me? Or hey, I've got a question about this. Would you speak at my It really comes down to, what can we do at our presentations to make ourselves memorable?
Absolutely. And yeah, I've gotten that. And I think that that just speaks volumes to them being engaged with your presentation and your persona and who you are as a speaker, presenter, tech coach, and whatnot. And I've done a few things before where I've just had people, hey, can I wasn't at your session. This is always a great little, just acknowledgement is, I wasn't at your session, but I heard great things. Can you share me your presentation slide deck? And I'm always saying, yeah, absolutely. I'll send you my slide deck. And if you have any questions, reach out and then I'll go into more depth, about it. But I've also done it like you and Jeff, you do it on TeacherCast all the time. It's here's a takeaway, a giveaway option. I've done things where it's just, hey, here's just 5 quick little tips. If my presentation was on designing and building digital playlists, then here's my 5 tips that were scattered throughout my presentation or my workshop that hopefully you can take away and remember. And then people see it and they go, hey, if I got a question, I remember to reach out to Nick and I remember his presentation, and it all starts to piece everything back together again.
It really just helps set your presentations apart from somebody else.
Hmm.
And like, if any of these topics that we're discussing today, hit you positively or negatively, we would love to hear from you guys. Of course, you can find us on Twitter at Ask the Tech Coach. Leave us a voice message over at teachercast.net/voicemail, or email us over at feedback@teachercast.net. We would love to hear from you guys, and maybe you guys have some branding tips that you use, things that you might try in your presentations to kind of set your presentation up to be a winner. We would love to hear from you and do that. So that kind of wraps up part one. We've talked about websites, we talked about social media, we talked about slide decks, and Nick, we got some pretty cool topics for our next show. But really, we're going to be helping you guys out with all this stuff. Again, if you guys are looking for a great website, or if you're looking to redesign your website, head on over to educationalwebdesign.com. That's educationalwebdesign.com. We would love to help you guys out by, again, either giving you guys some tips and tricks for you to design it yourself, or you know what, we are here to help you guys out. I've been doing web design ever since about 1995 or so, and I've created a lot of websites for some of the people that you guys follow, and so have the people on the team that we are creating. If you're interested in doing something like that, check us out over at educationalwebdesign.com, and we will help you guys create a fantastic brand for your next outing. Nick, where can we find some of the great things that are happening in your neck of the woods? I noticed that you're busy. You've got some great reviews that you've been doing of some of these fantastic apps that are out there. I know you're going to be presenting soon in Metuchen, right? We're gonna be seeing each other in what, like 2 weeks, 3 weeks at MeTech.
Yeah, we're gonna be there together. I'm not gonna say down the shore, I guess mid Jersey, right? Kind of central locale. And yeah, just I'm gonna be presenting on digital playlists, which is something I did at the NJET conference in northern New Jersey back in January, and people had reached out looking for me to present a little bit. And Jeff, I'm excited that we're both gonna be there. And I think that's what, yeah, like you said, 2 weeks. So I'm excited. Just a topic that I love talking about, regardless of platform. I'm going to be talking about using Google Sites and using your LMS and how to create these self-paced personalized learning plans.
And I'm going down there. I've got a few presentations myself. I think I'm doing the podcasting workshop. I think I'm doing Google slide animations, and I know I've got one more, but I don't remember exactly
Wow.
what it is. I got to check
Okay.
it. Yeah, I kind of set myself up and said, just keep me busy for the whole day. And she's like, just
Right.
keep doing more. And I said, all right, we'll do that. So we're going to be doing that. It's called METech, METECH. I believe the date is what, the 15th or something like that. Whatever that
Yeah,
Saturday is
15
in
or
March.
16. Yep.
So check it out. There's a lot of good things, and if you have any questions about that, you can certainly email us. But we want to know what you guys are thinking. This is Ask the Tech Coach. We are here to help answer your questions about being a technology coach. Maybe you are a coach, and maybe you are looking to become a coach. We've got some great things happening. Of course, we have our Tech Coach Mastermind happening right now, where you can take advantage of our $50, $100, or $150 coupons. Go over to teachercast.net/mastermind. Join our community today. We've got some fantastic things, and we would love to work with you this school year. Nick, before we get out of here, how do we find you? What is your website again, and where can we go to find out more information about the great work that you're doing?
So my website, you can follow me at nicholasamaral.com, which is my blog, or on Twitter at namaraledu.
And of course, you can find out more information about us over here on AskTheTechCoach.com. We've got some great tech coaching blogs, resources, podcasts, you name it. We are here to help you guys out. And of course, don't forget to download your free copy of the 40 Chrome extensions that every tech coach should know about, but probably don't. We challenge you guys. We've been talking a lot about tech coach Chrome extensions, and we want you guys to figure out which ones you need to learn a little bit more about by downloading our free ebook, 40 Chrome extensions that every tech coach needs to know about today. And on behalf of everybody here in the TeacherCast Educational Network, my name is Jeff Bradbury.
And I'm Nick Amaral.
Reminding you to keep up the great work in your classroom and continue sharing your passions with your students.